Could we have one other matter for you? Is that it? We have one more?
Yeah, one more.
Is that the file item number 12668?
Correct.
Okay.
AB 668 will ensure equity for low-income home owners to afford not only their mortgage payments, but also their property tax bill. AB 668 would allow a county assessor to consider certain long-term affordability deed restrictions when valuing a property for property taxes if specific conditions are met. The bill before you today serves an important purpose. Currently, there is a wide variance between cities and counties when assessing the value of affordable homes. While some assessors consider the recorded contracts and deed restrictions between low-income homeowners and nonprofit organizations, other assessors choose not to and instead assess these homes at the fair market value. This is especially burdensome for a low-income household that is restricted from spending more than 30% of its income on its monthly mortgage, which includes property taxes. AB 668 provides a simple remedy that is to this discrepancy by encouraging consistency among local property tax assessors throughout the state. I have worked closely with the assessors who have removed their opposition to the bill to include strict conditions and requirements to narrow the application of the bill. Ultimately, AB 668 will assist hardworking, low-income families afford their mortgage payments, increase access to affordable housing, and create opportunities for homeownership in California. I have a few witnesses to speak on behalf of the bill.
Okay, please.
Holly Fermini with Platinum Advisors on behalf of Habitat for Humanity California, the statewide association representing all 47 affiliates throughout the state of California. This is an issue and a solution we've been working on for the last 4 years, and thank the author, the assessors, and all the committee consultants in both houses for helping us work on this workable solution that works for everyone. Thank you for your vote.
Thank you so much.
Marina Wyant with the California Housing Consortium in support.
Perfect. Any others in support?
Mr. Chairman, members, Greg Cook, representing the California Assessors Association, to restate, as Mr. Gomez did, the very hard work that his staff provided with us, and we have removed our opposition. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Others in support? Opposition? Any opposition? Bill's been moved by Senator Laura. Any questions from the members? Seeing none, would you like to close, sir?
Yes, I want to first thank the committee as well as the sponsors of this bill, but also it's kind of an approach that I've taken with a lot of bills, not to focus on necessarily the solution, but how do we solve the problem, and that's how we were able to finally get agreement on this bill after a few years and other people carrying the bill. So I'm proud, and I also like to thank the committee staff for their analysis. It says AB 668's direction is simple and effective. On that, I ask for an aye vote.
Touche, Mr. Chairman. Bill's been moved. Secretary, call the roll.
Hertzberg?
Aye.
Hertzberg, aye. Wynn? Bell? Aye. Bell, aye. Hernandez? Hernandez, aye. Laura? Laura, aye. Morlock? Morlock, aye. Pavley? Pavley, aye. 6-0.
6-0. We'll hold it open for the vice chair. Thank you kindly, sir. Appreciate it. File item number 5, AB 243, Assemblymember Wood. Where's his plant? Oh, here it comes.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and senators. Thank you for your, I think it's still morning, isn't it?
Indeed it is. 15
Indeed
more
is.
minutes.
Thank you very much. Sergeants are going to be passing out, in addition, some additional support I have. Not samples. Letters, no samples.
Hey, you're going to put that up against, right next to him?
I promise it won't bite, Senator. So we do have some additional letters of support that have come in the last couple of days. So,
Guys, can we give the authors attention? Thank you.
So Chair and members,
Sergeants, guard that plant.
trust me, we have plenty of guards here. So. Earlier this year, this committee heard SB 643 by Senator McGuire and is well informed on the background of some of the challenges we face on the North Coast regarding cannabis cultivation, which is becoming increasingly pervasive throughout the state. So I'll try to keep my introductory remarks brief and begin to discuss some of the issues that are relevant to your work here on this committee and specific to my bill, which is much narrower in scope to Mr. Maguire's. We have here a plant, Exhibit A, that came from Mendocino County yesterday, and I'll discuss the significance of this in a couple of minutes. As you are well aware, there are very few environmental regulations for medical cannabis cultivators. An estimated 60 to 70% of all of the marijuana consumed in the United States comes from 3 counties in my assembly district, commonly referred to as the Emerald Triangle. The challenges about conflict with state and federal law have led to a grossly unregulated industry. This has led to serious and somewhat dire environmental damage. The biggest problems we are facing is illegal water diversion, unpermitted ponds, unpermitted roads, the judicious use of pesticides, fertilizers, and rodenticides. This is having devastating effects on our watersheds in the face of an already catastrophic drought. Water consumption estimates for a mature plant vary, and information on this subject is difficult to obtain, but they vary between a gallon to 10 gallons a day. Information is tough to get, but make no mistake, these are thirsty plants drinking water that in many cases it has been illegally diverted and stored. Last year, Sproul Creek in Humboldt County went dry for the first time in a number of years, which devastated the watershed's ecosystem. Sproul Creek is also home to 5 endangered salmon species, including the coho. State officials believe the stream went dry from illegal water diversions of marijuana cultivators. The situation is worse this year. In an effort to protect the environment, the State Water Resources Control Board and the California Department of Fish and Wildlife requested funding from the governor to create a task force to address the natural resources damages from marijuana cultivation. In 2014, the governor responded, approving a $1.8 million pilot project in Northern California called the Watershed Enforcement Team. This program is again funded in 2015-16. AB 243 would make this program a permanent statewide program. The bill also requires all 9 regional water quality control boards in the state to develop environmental protection guidelines to address wastewater discharges from medical marijuana farms. However, we cannot address the environmental concerns without looking at the source, which is cultivation. AB 243 establishes a regulatory system that puts some basic parameters around the cultivation of medical marijuana. Cultivation oversight is one of the ways to protect our water. The bill requires that a cultivator obtain a permit from a local jurisdiction first, and then a state license from the Department of Food and Agriculture before cultivation can begin. AB 243 creates a tag-permitted medical structure for plants. And actually, on this particular plant, there is a sample of a tag from the Mendocino County Sheriff's Department. You can't see it because it's down in the pot there. No pun intended.
Senator Laura wants that delivered to his office after this is over.
This will help state. It's a North Coast thing. So this will help state and local officials monitor the number of plants a watershed supports. If a watershed cannot support additional cultivation, no new plant identifiers would be issued. A tag program also improves quality control and enforcement. In Colorado, a similar cannabis identifier program helps law enforcement distinguish permitted plants from illegal ones. Identifiers make it easier to trace contamination and health hazards to their source. The unique identifier or tag program would be run by the Department of Food and Agriculture or a local jurisdiction if they choose to be the responsible entity. Regulations can do only so much with limited resources and funding, and as such, AB 243 provides funding for additional resources by establishing a $50 per medical marijuana plant fee that a licensed cultivator would have to pay to a licensed distributor at the point of sale. This has stirred a lot of discussion. It is patterned after a program that was established in Mendocino County a few years ago. We've been working with the BOE and concluded that at this point, tagging individual plants seems to make the most sense. It's easier to count plants than it is to calculate canopy cover or square footage of cultivation, or some of the other options people are considering. However, I remain open to those ideas. The funds collected would be dispersed by the California Board of Equalization in the following manner: 10% for the administration of the program, 30% to local and state law enforcement, 30% to continuously fund the WET program, and 30% to fund a competitive grant program for environmental cleanup and restoration of public and private lands that have been damaged from illegal trespass marijuana cultivation. My bill addresses critical environmental issues that are having enormous effects on the residents of the district I represent. I also seek to allow for significant local control. Local jurisdictions have a far better knowledge of their individual land use requirements and local ordinances. I believe that the local ordinances should be protected and respected. I know that local jurisdictions are looking for a significant guidance from the state. However, I fear that a one-size-fits-all approach without some local flexibility is doomed to fail. Regardless of whether marijuana for recreational use is legalized in 2016 by a ballot initiative, the reality right now in California is that medical marijuana is legal and has been for nearly 20 years, whether we like it or not. We cannot continue to ignore the problems and hope they go away. That simply hasn't worked. We've kicked the can down the road for far too long, and quite frankly, we're running out of road. I want to thank the chair and the committee staff for their help with this bill, and it has been a big lift, and I really appreciate that. I commit to continue working on with the committee on the following issues: technical suggestions by the BOE to tighten tax collection language, clarify permitting process on the local and state level, and clarify the California Department of Food and Agriculture's authority regarding requirements for issuing a state license to cultivate. Now back to our plant. Obviously, the value is somewhat north of a tomato or corn, and that's the major reason it's here today. And just as a comparison, I looked in the paper today, and you can buy a cantaloupe for $1.19, zucchini 79 cents a pound, carrots 45 cents a pound, blueberries $2.50 for a pound. That's a big one. Information on the value is difficult to establish, but it is significant. This plant is a female clone. It was grown from a cutting. Females produce the buds, and the buds produce the THC that is the desired outcome of the plant. This plant, when it's mature, will produce between 3/4 to 1 1/4 pounds of processed marijuana, according to the Mendocino County Sheriff, who delivered it last night. Talking with people in the law enforcement industry and law enforcement and the industry, the value to the farmer of this particular plant varies from $1,200 to $1,600 a pound for outdoor grown, or $2,400 to $2,600 a pound for indoor grown. The tax rate for the tag would be 2% at the low end and 4% at the high end, assuming that this plant yielded 1 pound of processed marijuana. Bear in mind that plants can produce much more than 1 pound under certain circumstances. I was asked to produce some data, and it's difficult, and as you hear, there are wide variations here. But based on a couple of raids that happened of recent illegal grow sites in the City of Industry, 300 marijuana plants were seized in 2015, valued at $1.2 million. In Solano County, 4,859 plants were seized, valued at $14.5 million. The per plant value based on these stories would be between $2,500 and $4,000 a pound, which may be high, and no pun intended there, but that. The Huffington Post had an article late last year highlighting the findings from ArcView Group. ArcView is a national investor network that provides financing to marijuana-based ventures that said that the legal marijuana industry in California is valued at $1.3 billion with a B, and the national legal cannabis industry valued at $2.7 billion. Industry, the emerald growers in particular, believe that number is very low and believes the market in California is closer to $32 billion. Emerald Growers estimates that there are 55,000 cannabis farms in the state. Bear with me on the math on this a little bit. It's a little bit challenging, but the numbers are pretty big. Estimated revenues realized from an excise tax on marijuana per plant, 55,000 farms times 99 plants times $50 a plant is $272 million in revenue. The industry, Emerald Growers, actually estimates the revenue could be as high as $600 million. We know that not all of these 55,000 farms is cultivating medical cannabis. We know quite a lot of them aren't. But just assuming that 10% are, the revenue from this tagging program could provide between $27 and $60 million for the 3 programs that I'm citing. The Marijuana Policy Project estimates that there are 572,762 medical marijuana patients in California as of October 2014, while CalNormal estimates that number closer to 1.1 million. I'd like to address an issue that was brought up in the analysis under the heading of half-baked issue. Actually, I'll take that as a compliment.
Apologize for that, by the way.
No, you don't need to. I'll take it as a compliment, and I'll tell you why. This is the first time in this legislature that there has been this much engagement by stakeholders, assembly members, senators, the environmental community on this particular issue. We're working on aspects of this issue that is significant to my district. So I'd say that, quite frankly, if you're looking at all the marijuana legislation, it's all half-baked, and some of it's just got the raw ingredients, in my opinion. Each set of amendments on the related marijuana bills are substantive amendments to the bill to refine the intent of the legislation, and mine is no different. I've been working with the authors of the other bills. We have 3 bills that in the Assembly that were collapsed into a single one. My amendments are, I deliberately held my amendments until I could understand the significance of that joinder of those 3 bills, so that I could be in a position to be complementary to those bills. I do not want to be in conflict. I do believe, but personally, I think that the issues are so significant in my district that I want to keep this as a standalone bill to be able to address those issues. My concern is that while I hear calls for a lot of people to call to bring one bill forward, I fear that the issues that are concerned to my district may get lost in the discussion as the other legislators, quite frankly, represent urban areas. Mine is a much more rural district. So,
And am I correct to understand, we mentioned this to members, I wanted to share this with you in the middle of your testimony, your area grows 60% of all the marijuana in the United States?
60 to 70%.
Okay, well, that's a big deal.
So as I've said before in another committee, I'd like to just with a quote here, as a quote I'll attribute to my colleague Mr. Cooley, and I'll say this: I like the way I may be doing it wrong better than the way no one else is doing it at all. I'd like to turn this over to Reed Addis from CalTrout, and I will say that I'm going to ask, with due permission through the chair, a question. I have a question. I have Scott Bauer here from the California Department of Fish and Wildlife. I'd just like to ask him a question. So, Reed.
Thank you, Chair and members. Reed Addis on behalf of CalTrout. We're here today in support. CalTrout is a nonprofit organization based in California dedicated to preserving and enhancing habitat for steelhead, salmon, and wild trout. To do that, we work on projects throughout the state and also promote policy that allows for better habitat, better water flow, and also better water temperatures for those species. We do projects across the state in riparian zones all over, but that also includes work in the North Coast, as you can imagine. Increasingly, that work has been compromised as those watersheds have been impacted by marijuana cultivation, both legal and illegal cultivation. We've had problems of water discharges into those waterways that have impacted the water quality. We've also had major problems with water diversions, which doesn't allow enough water in the waterway for the fish in the first place. And it is compromising those conservation projects that we in the state and the legislature and the governor put programs together where we've spent millions in these conservation projects, and it's jeopardizing those projects. So we are very interested in this policy approach today because we think it does 3 things, at least from our perspective, that we think is important. 1, it creates a system by which we're actually managing the number of plants in a watershed. 2, it's allowing resources to go to the Department of Fish and Wildlife and to the Water Board, which are 2 critical partners in evaluating these various impacts that we find important in these watersheds. And 3, it allows a grant program that the Natural Resources Agency can administer that allows us to go do some of the cleanup and conservation projects that are necessary from past damage. That is why we're here today in support. We would hope you would give an aye vote to this measure. We think by doing so, you're actually making a commitment to protecting the past investments the state has made in these conservation projects. Thank you very much.
Through the chair, could I ask?
Certainly.
I'd just like to ask Mr. Bauer, who cannot testify on the bill, but I'm going to ask him a direct question which he should be able to answer. Mr. Bauer is with the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, and he is a member of the watershed enforcement team. So I'd like to ask you, tell me about the activities to date and what kind of an impact you are having. But before you answer that question, I want to show this picture here because I think this is really, really important. This picture is represents 2 watersheds in western part of Humboldt County, just northwest of Garberville. Each of those dots represents a marijuana growth site.
What's the different color differentiate?
The difference is the size. So the number of plants that are there. This was actually taken in 2012. It appears in an article that was written by Mr. Bauer. And if you were to take this, if you were to do this again today, the number of dots on this would be significantly larger than what we currently have.
Can you just turn around and show it to the audience so they know what we're looking at too?
So at this point, if you wouldn't mind answering
Please.
the question, I'd appreciate it.
Thank you. So our watershed enforcement team is composed of 9 personnel with the department. I believe it's 2 scientists, a lawyer, and about 5 game wardens, 6 game wardens. And to date, our program was initiated in September of last year. We've inspected about 100 parcels within California, and that includes Humboldt, Trinity, Mendocino, Shasta, Tehama, Butte County. So operating mainly in the northern part of the state. We've permitted, and people are actually coming into our office, cultivators wanting to get permitted. They're calling us. So we're doing these inspections, we're doing enforcement, and we're trying to permit sites. But just to give you an idea of how much we've done with our team of 9 individuals, in Humboldt County, where I work and live, we've permitted and inspected about 0.01% of all the cultivation sites in Humboldt County, and there's over 5,000. So giving you an idea of what we need to do, given there's 55,000 sites in California, you can see that we have a lot of work to do across the state.
Thank you. Others in support?
Hi, my name's Karen Liggett, and thank you, Assemblyman Wood. I haven't had a chance to meet you, but thank you for this bill. And I'm in support, and I have an article here for an illegal grow in antelope, $4.5 million. So I could give you a copy at your office today.
Very good.
But also, I was threatened by a medical marijuana grower in Yuba County last week at the courthouse because they're trying to change our ordinance. And now they're trying to recall our supervisors again. They've been back and forth to court, wasting taxpayers' money. And that we have another hearing on the 29th again because they keep getting different lawyers and keep trying to not enforce their ordinance. And in Yuba County, none of them, of the medical marijuana patients, have registered to grow, but they're still growing. They're trying to grow for profit. And it's a huge problem in Yuba Sutter area. It's really big. We need your help. And I could tell you.
I really appreciate it. Very good. Excellent.
Good afternoon. Karen Lang on behalf of the Sonoma County Board of Supervisors and the Humboldt County Board of Supervisors, both in support. Their assemblyman is right on target. It is stunning to see what's left of some of the streams and rivers as you drive between Humboldt and Del Norte, which I've done a few times. This bill is very much needed. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Kelly Dell, on behalf of California League Conservation Voters, in support.
Thank you.
Hezekiah Allen, Emerald Growers Association, in support. I do just briefly want to note that there's an environmental and public safety crisis, but let's not forget the small business crisis caused by the lack of regulations as well. Our farmers need guidelines also, and this is something that will help us. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Kyle Jones with Sierra Club, California, in support.
Thank you.
Hi, Liz Forsberg with the Nature Conservancy, support if amended, and just like to say thank you for your leadership on this issue, Assemblymember White.
Thank you so much.
Kirsten Kopitke with the California Forestry Association in support of the bill.
Thank you.
Chris McKaylee on behalf of the Humboldt and Redwood and Mendocino Redwood companies in support.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair and members, Pat Moran with Aaron Reed and Associates, representing the California Association of Professional Scientists. As you've heard, we have 9 people working on this. It's a far cry from what we need. We're in full support of the bill, and hopefully Dr. Ed can give me a little prescription before I leave here today. And
thank you.
Amy Jenkins on behalf of the California Cannabis Industry Association. We actually have a support and concept position on the bill, and we look forward to continued discussions with the author.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Julia Carrera, third-party inspector of medical marijuana gardens and representative from the Small Farmers Association. We would like to thank Assemblyman Wood for doing this. It is our program. We're self-regulators, and we completely support this bill.
Thank you so much. Those in opposition?
Julian Voris here on behalf of the Urban Counties Caucus. We have an opposed unless amended position on the bill. The counties have submitted some amendments, even though they were late, sent yesterday. The bill was just amended last week, so we're still kind of scrambling to catch up. We have asked previously for the previous Section C to be removed. We have three main issues. We have counties, the way it's currently drafted, it sort of separates different counties depending on if they have an ordinance, if they don't have an ordinance. That's a problem for the urban counties. Some of our urban counties don't have any ordinance. Some of them have an ordinance that may mention the rural cultivation, but they're really about dispensaries. So we just have some confusing terminology in the bill that we'd like to see cleaned up. The second is about the statewide regulatory framework. We would like it to be clear about various provisions that are in the other bills as far as whether they need background checks or other restrictions that are put on place as far as cross-licensing and having more than one license across all of these various issues that we have in AB 266 and SB 643. And lastly is the local control language. In all of the bills, we have asked for language to say that nothing in this bill would prohibit a local government from banning or licensing or asking for permits for cultivators. So we're just asking for it to be consistent across all of these measures. And for those reasons, we are opposed unless amended, and we hope to continue to work with the author.
Good. Well, this goes to environmental quality, so I know that we have a short period of time to work on this. We've been working hard to try to catch up on it and deal with the important issues. So hopefully we can talk, and that conversation will continue as we move to environmental quality. Please, thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Hello, I'm Lynette Davies with Crusaders for Patients' Rights, and we are opposed to this bill. And a couple reasons are, and one of them had to do with the city and oversight with the cities, because we have been working on ordinances all the way across the state on getting regulations. Many times we've had to go in with voter referendums in order to put rules and regulations into place. Nowhere is there a spot for a permit. But one of the things that we have talked to many of the cities about is they're looking for statewide regulations to give them guidance. This does not give any cities guidance on how to open it. It gives them all of as of day one, you're going to be having to give permits or denying, but it doesn't give them the tools that are needed for each of these cities to be able to open and get these permits. The other thing it has is supply and demand. Yes, there's some cities that are out there in some of the counties that already have a permit process that's up and running. But we have to work with patients every day that have a supply that is going to be needed. If you cut the supply and demand chain, what you're doing is you're putting it back into a black market. The fees are incredibly high.
Supply and demand chain. I don't get the causal connection. $50 on a plant that's worth thousands of dollars.
Well,
how's that a big deal?
That's a big deal because you're looking at that size plant. If you're doing an indoor cultivation, you're looking at a plant this size where you're going to get maybe 2 ounces off of it. You're going to have a death rate on your plants of maybe 20%. What are you going to do then? I mean, and every time, it's not just that cost. You're going to have a permit cost. You're going to have a permit cost from the watershed. You're going to have a permit cost from the counties because they're going to have a use tax for a privilege tax onto it. And so you're upping the cost. And by the time you up the cost, what we have found both in Colorado and Washington, the higher the cost goes, it goes into the black market. So, I mean, this is some of the regulatory things that we've been working on both 643 and 266. It's how you can be right in the middle where you can actually bring a legal industry into the market, be able to tax it, and not overtax it to the point you put it into a black market. We feel that this bill is not representative of what we want to see come forward, and we are going to be looking at a legalization in 2016. We need to be able to have a full regulatory bill. This doesn't represent that. Thank you.
Good day, my name is Kimberly Cargile. I'm from a therapeutic alternative. We are a regulated and permitted dispensary in the city of Sacramento. This is a very good bill for Northern California. I spent a quarter of my life in Humboldt County and grew up in Northern California, and it is a great outdoor bill. The problem is with a few hundred different jurisdictions here in California, most of them have banned outdoor cultivation, and we are only allowed to grow indoors. We, with a therapeutic alternative, have a small cultivation. We provide a quarter of our patients' needs. We have a cultivation that's 1,000 square feet. We have 500 plants. If this bill went into place, we have 4 harvests a year indoor with 500 plants. That's $25,000 a harvest. That's $100,000 in taxes a year.
There's charge $50 per plant, not per harvest. Is that correct?
$50 per plant, 500 plants. 4 harvests a year is $100,000 in taxes a year. There is no way that indoor cultivation will survive, and the majority of the hundreds of jurisdictions in California only allow for indoor cultivation. We need to amend this bill in order for us to keep our supply chain in California. Very good bill for Northern California, outdoor plants like this. Very bad bill for us in urban areas.
How would you fix it?
Well, we could tax based on the product actually sold, like other products, or on acreage, square footage, like other products. There's actually no agricultural products that I know of that are taxed per plant. So usually it is acreage, square footage, or actually the pound, weight of the product. It'd be very easy for any regulators to go online and look at the building itself. Online, any county has a map. You can see the square footage of the building. You could base your tax on the square footage of the building even. Very easy to do. Or you can come in and have a regulator inspector come in and measure the square footage of the canopy. Ours is 1,000 square feet. And you could base on that. The canopy size is actually going to be more representative of the amount of product that's coming out, not the plant itself.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Others in opposition? Quickly.
Rich Miller, Americans for Safe Access, also for Health Education and Legal Patients' Rights of Placer County, and American Alliance for Medical Cannabis of El Dorado County. We are opposing this bill. We think it's highly taxing and puts patients with the inability to afford to grow their cannabis plants. It is 5 times the cost of what the plant costs. So we just think it's overregulated and overtaxed. Thank you.
Thank you. Others in opposition?
I'm going to oppose this. My name is Sue Colombe, and I'm a patient who will be affected by the cost. I believe that the tax was created to fund illegal for law enforcement for illegal grows and other issues that good growers shouldn't affect good growers. We're not sure where the money should come from, but I don't think that you should fine the growers or put the fee on the grower in the beginning. I think that it's absolutely going to affect the patients, the affordability, and the access, which the law states safe and affordable access.
Thank you so much.
Hello, I'm Marcia Blount from the Sacramento Brownie Mary Democratic Club, and we want to oppose the bill, but we appreciate the concepts behind it, and we would like to see that maybe it get moved into a more comprehensive bill like AB 266. Thanks.
Good afternoon, Stacey Heaton with the Rural County Representatives of California, RCRC, and I want to be clear, we are not opposed to this bill. We actually don't have a position. We have been working with the author on this bill throughout session and are trying to work towards a support position. We do have a few concerns about the bill in its current form. However, number one, we feel that it needs to be tied to a licensing scheme such as the one in AB 266, which we do support. And second, and most importantly, we feel that there needs to be stronger language preserving local control and local land use authority in the bill. We did submit some proposed amendments yesterday, and we'll continue to work with the author to hopefully work towards and reach a support position. Thank you.
So much. Questions from senators? Anything further, sir? Oh, you have a question, sir? No? Anything further?
I'd just like to say, I'd like to answer some of the comments. First of all,
then you're closed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This will be my close. There are a lot of issues that were raised here today, and I appreciate where they're coming from. I will say that the last person who spoke in opposition, those comments came in late last night. We haven't even had a chance to review them yet. So I'm looking at significant local control here. If you are a city or county that has an ordinance that seeks to ban or currently bans, that takes precedence. There is no issue with that. So I'm not sure how much more local control you could provide. If you don't have an ordinance, there is a time frame when you can actually apply for one. And then if you choose to go silent, the state can then, through the Department of Food and Agriculture, can actually do that. The concern about small plants and the indoor grows, those have a much higher THC content, and they're much more valuable. And that's not an issue that was brought back up. Indoor in general is much more profitable. And then growers are actually supporting what we're trying to do here. So, patients and caregivers continue to be exempt, so that isn't an issue. Guidance and tools, we have tried to give everything we possibly can. So I will continue to fight to keep this bill as an independent bill because I think it addresses the unique interests of my particular district, that the urban interests are very, very different. So I will continue to work with those folks and try to be complementary. And with that, I will close. And I thank you very much for your patience, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Excellent job. Excellent job. Thank you. Do you have a motion on this? Moved by Senator Bell. Secretary, call the roll.
Hertzberg.
Aye.
Hertzberg, aye. Wynn. Bell. Bell, aye. Hernandez. Laura. Laura, aye. Morlock. Havley. You have 3-0.
We've got 3-0. We'll hold that open for the absent members. Thank you, sir, very, very much.
Thank you for your patience.
Excellent. File item number 7, Assemblywoman Chang, AB 347, file item number 7. That's for you, Laura. No one knows the difference. It's just a nice-looking green. Huh? File number 7, AB 347. And just to be clear on that last measure, that was due pass to environmental quality. I mentioned it, but want to make it clear for the record. All right. AB 347.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, AB 347 is a simple but personal issue for me. As a former mayor of a city in the county of LA, I have personally attended scheduled meetings of the LA County City Selection Committee only to find the meeting canceled because a quorum could not be met. The current proxy system for county selection committees allow a mayor to appoint a member of the city council in his or her place. Unfortunately, over the years, LA County City Selection Committee has been unable to reach consistent quorums to fill the appointments. LA County has 88 cities represented on the committee spanning 4,000 square miles. It can be a real challenge to ensure attendance from each qualified city representative with a committee of that size and scope. This doesn't just lead to the frustration by mayors and council members who do attend. It leads to vacancies in very important public bodies. The LA Selection Committee appoints members to boards such as the South Coast Air Quality Management District and the LA Metro. AB 347 will streamline the proxy process by allowing any member of a city council present at a selection committee meeting in order of seniority to represent their city should the mayor not be in attendance. This will lift some of the bureaucracy from the system.
Morlock was going to move it, but this bill's been moved. That means you got a lot of support. You know the rules.
Excellent. Okay. I respectfully ask for your aye vote. I do have Alicia Lewis from the League of California Cities.
Yeah. Alicia Lewis, the League of California Cities. We are very supportive of this bill, representing the Los Angeles County Division. Not the first time, but
okay.
Here. But either way, we feel like this will really help streamline the process for our members. Those of you who are from the region understand the challenges our members are facing, and we ask for your support.
Thank you. Others in support?
Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, Paul Gonzalez representing the cities of Bellflower, Cerritos, Claremont, Diamond Bar, Lakewood, La Mirada, Norwalk, Rosemead, Santa Fe Springs, Signal Hill, Torrance, Walnut, and West Covina, all in support.
Gonzalez firm, they have to read it off a card. They got so many cities. Yes.
Good morning, Kiara Ross on behalf of the city of Burbank in support of the bill.
Thank you so much. Any opposition? Hearing and seeing none. Anything further on the close?
I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you. Bill's been moved. Secretary, call the roll.
Hertzberg.
Aye.
Hertzberg, aye. Wynn. Bell. Aye. Hernandez. Laura. Morlock. Morlock, aye. Pavley. You have 3-0.
3-0. Thank you very much. We'll hold it open. Excellent job. Appreciate it.